everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Alan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is your host, Alan Langer, episode 58 coming up tonight. We are creeping up on 60, but before we get to 60, we've got 58 tonight with a really cool guest. Tamay Shannon is joining me, and she is a social media expert, guru, Sherpa, whatever you want to call her. She is the lady to do this. And so before we get to Tamay and all of her cool information, just a quick heads up that the website is marketingandsalespodcast.com. If you go to that website and go to the top where it says Ask Alan, you send me a question. If I choose that question to read on the air, you get a free signed autographed copy of my book. Signed and autographed is redundant, but you'll get a free copy of my book that I will sign. And we've got a question coming up from Stephen Basic. He did not write where he's from, but Stephen's got a pretty cool question that we're gonna challenge Tamay with a little later on. All right. So without any further delay, Tamay Shannon, welcome to the show tonight. How are you?
I am doing incredibly well. Thanks.
I love to hear that. And so Tamay, before, as with all my guests, I have to find out what you are imbibing tonight as your over cocktails. Well, tell me what you have first, and I'm going to tell the audience what I have because it's pretty cool.
So today I was feeling, I guess because it's spring, I was feeling very fruity today. So I have a modified tequila sunrise. So we, of course, have the tequila,
Yes.
but then it's pineapple juice and orange juice.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Where is your part of the world? Where are you coming from?
Georgia. Yes.
Georgia. So are tequila sunrises popular in Georgia?
No.
They're popular in Tamay's house. That's where they're popular.
Right, exactly.
Well, I have this drink, and I discovered this Japanese rice vodka. So if the
Yes.
folks at Haku Vodka are listening, if you want to sponsor my show, I'll take as many free bottles of this as you want. I have that over a little soda, and I have it. Tamay, this is really cool. I've showed this to a couple of guests. You see that in the glass there?
Is that a bullet?
That's a bullet. And the people who do this, they're called Ben Shot, and they make glasses with bullets in them. So
cool.
I'm trying to get them as a sponsor. So if anybody knows anyone at Ben Shot, send them my way, man. I want some more bullet glasses. All right. Well, here's a virtual cheers into the camera. Thanks for being on the show with your tequila sunrise.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tamay has a company called Where to Start Marketing, or W2S Marketing, Where to Start Marketing. She's been doing this for about 10 years. She's part of my networking group. We met a little while ago. I had her on another show that I do, and she's really just knows her stuff when it comes to social media marketing. And I would venture to say that most people don't. Most people get overwhelmed. And that is your tagline. You take the overwhelm out of social media marketing. Tell people how you do that and why is it so easy to get overwhelmed with social media?
So it's so easy to get overwhelmed because there's so much to do, right? Like, you got to create the content, you got to post the content, you got to respond to people, you got to think of what to say, you got to there's just so much, just so much to manage. And I think one of the reasons why people get overwhelmed is because they don't have a strategy. They don't have okay, so I know that I have this launch coming up in 2 months, and I want to build my newsletter list by 25% to ensure a certain conversion rate to blah, 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 blah. Like, they don't have that. And so they're just showing up every day, sitting down at the computer and being like, hey, there's this really popular meme. I'll just post that, right? That'll be good. Yeah. Okay, great. We'll do that. And so it gets tiring. That gets tiring if every day you have to sit down and just from the ether, pull something to say. So I think that's the biggest reason.
Do you think it's, so I first of all, know exactly what you mean because I used to do that. I still do it to a point, especially with my new TikTok channel. I still pull stuff out of the air because I don't I haven't have it scheduled enough. But once I started scheduling, especially my LinkedIn stuff, it becomes a lot easier because it takes the stress off of your plate.
Totally.
How do you, so you mainly focus on small business, right?
Yeah.
So how do you tell the small business owner who has 45 different hats to wear? And they're like, we just finished up coaching a small business owner. She owns a candle shop, and we spent 8 weeks talking about how to get her organized as far as getting clients online and everything. But her biggest issue was I every time I think about social media, I freak out. So how do you tell a small business owner who has all of these other things to do? What should they do? Is there a strategy, or does it just come down to hiring somebody?
Right. Both. And so, yeah, so it definitely, even if you hire somebody, you need to have a strategy, because they're going to be like, okay, well, what do you want me to promote? Or what do you want me to talk about? How do you want me to talk about it? What's coming up? So even if you hire somebody, definitely have a strategy. But for a small business owner, when you're embarking on social and you want to be like, okay, I want to create some content and I want to get some sales, surprise, wonder of wonders. What do you do? Well, I always say the most important thing to do is messy perfection. Like, it's not going to be perfect the first time out, and that is A-okay. But what I want is just to make sure that you're out there and you're out there consistently. That's the most important thing. So there are two places that you can go to really help create those ideas. One of them I found out is Answer Socrates. And the other one is Answer the Public. And both of these platforms sort of kind of in aggregate have what people are searching. So for me, what it would look like for me is I'm like, okay, I don't know what to write. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, I would go to these websites. I would type in social media and I would see what people are asking about social media. And then I would create content around it. So that's the first level. That's the first step, is we just want to get you consistently producing content of value out there.
I will vouch for what she just said, because when she first told this to me and I do a live stream on Thursdays, and Steve and I were talking to Tamay, and she brought this up, and I'm like, I'm going to try that. And it's absolutely a game changer, because when you are sitting there and it's midnight and I'm like, crap, I didn't post my TikTok today. I go on there, I'm like, 60,000 people looked for this today. And then all of a sudden a post will pop in my head. 60 seconds later, my TikTok is done. So yes, write that down for people who are listening. Answer Socrates and Answer the Public. They are really, really good websites. How did you come across them? And do you use them all the time for your own clients?
Citizen of the internet. So I am always online and finding stuff. So I can't rightly tell you exactly, but it's just existing in the world. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Oh my gosh, I like that. So I collect apps and resources. Right.
Well, it's just like that software I found last week called Descript. I think I showed that to you.
Yes, that's so cool. I'm very excited about that.
Stuff. Yeah, me too. So it's just like you find stuff and you can kind of share with people, and that's how that's how Clubhouse all of a sudden blew up overnight. So another social media platform that people have
another thing to do.
Another thing
right?
to do.
But at least you don't have to get dressed up for Clubhouse. You just push a button and you're good to go.
All right. So is there like a difference by, let's say you're a I don't know, your market is, I don't know, plumbing, or your market is you're a chiropractor. Are there different social media platforms that you should be looking for based on what you sell?
Yes, but I want to reframe that question just a little bit. It's not necessarily what you sell, but who you sell it to. For example, this is actually a little bit inspired by your TikTok. So let's say let's go with the plumber. You have one plumber who's like, he's good. He's a plumber. He's great. And then you have another plumber who's like, hey, when I come into your home, I make sure that I'm not dirty. I have a thing on my foot, so I'm not tracking anything anywhere. I'm blah, 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 blah. And so what you get from this plumber is that he's very good at what he does. He's high end. He's going to take care of your stuff. He's not going to mess anything up. He's not going to have tools everywhere. I would say, okay, great. With this high end audience, you need to go to maybe let's play around in Instagram and LinkedIn. Let's play around in these high-end audience areas. But if you're just like a regular plumber, let's stay on Facebook. So it's really the audience and who you're targeting that will dictate where you show up.
That is really, really smart. And it's funny how each platform pretty much has a completely different audience. Like when Facebook bought Instagram, people say, well, it's the same platform. It's completely not. It's just, there's different audiences.
Not even close. Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy. So talk about one of your big things that you like to talk about a lot is content consistency. So tell us what you mean by, obviously content consistency is pretty self-explanatory, but does that mean once a day, once a week? Is it the same posts? Like give us a little better definition of that.
So one of the things is in the beginning of the internet, people were like, I want to go viral, as if that is something that you could cause into being. No, you can't. But one of the key steps to, having that opportunity to be viral, to go viral, is being consistent in posting, being consistent in sharing, because you never know what's going to catch the world's fancy. You never know what's going to have people share it with their friend. And most of the time, when most people have gone viral, they haven't tried to. They're just like, oh, I had a thought. I shared the thought. And then, oh my goodness, 50,000 other people also agree with that thought. So being consistent is one of the most important steps to getting there. And how often you post, the cadence at which you post, that varies. Because again, it goes back to the platform. If you post once a day on Twitter, that's not going to be so effective because Twitter has such a high volume of content being produced per second. Versus if you do once a day on LinkedIn, once a day on Instagram, that'll be like, okay, that makes sense. You can totally do that. That works. But then there's also, when you're looking at consistency, because I know I heard a groan. Tamay, I do not have the time. I get it. Nobody does. So when I say consistent content, there's in the background, I have an asterisk. And the asterisk is reuse your content. So you spent all this time and you made a blog post and it is amazing. Reuse that content, share it again and again and again, and share it in different facets. Say, oh, here's some steps. Oh, here's a quote. Here's this. But reuse your content so you don't feel like you're always on the hamster wheel. And if you've got a blog piece, you can share that 10 different times easily without it seeming repetitive. You can easily share a blog post 10 different ways such that you get the traffic there and you don't seem repetitive. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think anyone's ever going to say, oh, I saw you post this last week. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. It's not. And that's like, if people actually notice, like most people aren't even noticing like your last post or they have a shorter memory. They're like, oh, that seems really interesting. And then next week, oh my gosh, it's a really good article. Oh, it's the exact same one I posted last week. Yeah. That's okay. That's fine. No.
Yeah, I read, I've been doing some research on TikTok because that's my new fascination. And a lot of the things I read is like, just take a post from 2 weeks ago and repost it. Or just take another video and just put it up again with different music or something like that. You have people that are following you, but it's like, you can try it and see what happens. The worst that can happen is you get nobody looking at it, really.
Right. And you actually just said something really cool that I don't think people do enough. Try it out. Give it a go. Just experiment because social media is always changing. And what worked at the beginning of, TikTok's, use might not work now that it's in the middle of all this people adopting it. And that's how all social media goes. We all remember the days of Facebook where you could post a post organically and 20,000 people would see it. And now we're not there anymore. It's like, you probably need to boost that post a little bit. But that's why I say always experiment with social. even if it didn't work last time, try it again, because social's ever changing and responding to what's out there.
So most of the people that are listening to this podcast come from LinkedIn, or they're professional folks. So obviously I've been pushing LinkedIn, and you and I met over LinkedIn, or I forget how, at this point, I don't remember how we met, to be honest, but you were, I think I contacted you to be on the podcast. Anyway, I'm under my philosophy is, if you're a professional, you be on LinkedIn first, and then you find a second one that's really good for you. I think after you get to a third and a fourth one, you kind of start spreading yourself thin. Would you agree with that philosophy? Or
Absolutely.
If you don't believe, you can tell me to my face. I'm drinking vodka, so I don't really care.
Caveat. I was absolutely looking for the caveat, But no, I do agree, because especially if you're a professional and your brand building does typically happen on LinkedIn, and you don't want to spread yourself thin, because again, if you spread yourself thin, you're not being consistent, and consistency above all is the most important thing. But I guess the caveat that I would have to that is, where are you directing people that you own? So all these platforms, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, they're all owned by their respective companies, and they can do whatever they want to. If that means shutting down your profile, if that means changing an algorithm, you have no recourse. There's nothing you can do. You just have to be like, okay, well, I guess that's my life now. And so is there a way that you can start engaging and interacting with people where you can control the conversation, where you don't have to wait for them to open LinkedIn, or you don't have to wait for them to open Instagram or Twitter to see information from you, but that you can send information to them? So, but yeah, I totally agree that keeping it simple and focusing on one and then expanding to the other is absolutely the way to go.
Okay, so you just touched on something that scares the hell out of me, and I did not think about it until you and I started talking 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, whenever it was, about how you said this sentence that I'll never forget. You said, you don't own your social media, you rent it. And at any time, the platform can shut you down. And if they shut you down, you're not getting your stuff back. How is there a way to protect yourself? Is there a way to put a copy your profile somewhere and have it as a backup, or what can you do to protect yourself from that happening? Is there anything?
Not a thing.
Wow, really?
Because what we all forget is, when we sign up for these platforms, that page that we just, whatever, click, that's a terms of service. That's a legally binding document. And in that document, most of the times they talk about what you can and can't use their platform for. Most of them have, this is ours, and we can use whatever we want to, and it doesn't, so when people say, oh, I saw my face on a Facebook advertisement, or, oh, I saw this, that's weird. Well, you're using their platform. And in that terms of service, they said we can use your stuff. And it's so funny, because when I see every so often people post something on Facebook, hey, Facebook, I am not giving you the rights to use my blah, 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 blah. You're still on Facebook. You are giving them the rights. By using Facebook, you are giving them the rights. Right. So yeah, there's really nothing you can do. Cause it's like if I came to your house and I started cooking a meal, and then you're like, Tamay, get out, but leave the food, I would be like, okay, I guess it's not my house, so I guess I have to go. Like, I don't have a lot of recourse. I can call the cops and they'd be like, whose house is it? I'm like, it's his. Okay, well then you need to get out. And it's like, there's nothing. So it's the same thing on social. You could complain, you could cry, you could do whatever you want. And at the end of the day, it is theirs.
You know what's fascinating about this whole conversation? Because there's that show that Netflix had on, The Social Dilemma, or The Social, whatever it was called, and it freaked everybody out. And I was watching it, and it does freak you out because of all the stuff that they can watch and follow and monitor. But I'm like, you chose to be on Facebook, so why are you complaining about it? You can't go on a platform and then say, oh, no, you can't follow me. You can't. I mean, if they say we're going to follow you and you go on the platform, then that's what's going to happen. Right.
And it's so funny. I agree. Because when that came out, I was of two minds. First, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's disturbing, but saw it coming. And then the other mind, I was like, how did y'all not know this? Because
right.
when all those little places where Facebook is like, we're trying to make it easier for you, and you can sign into different websites and different things using Facebook. What do you think Facebook is using with that data? They can say that this user is connected to this thing and they like to do these things. Like, that's what Facebook is here for. That's what all these platforms are here for. So it's like, yeah, I mean, yes, that's what can you say?
And think about it. They're giving you this platform to do all of these things for free, for the most part. And then you don't really have a right to say, well, you can't do this, this, and this to me because you're on the platform. If you don't want them to do those things, then get off the platform. Right. So it's I'm going to borrow your car, but you can't tell me when I have to give it back to you.
Right. Exactly. It's because, and I always tell business owners, Facebook don't care about you. Facebook is not here for you. They're not here to make your life easier. So when people complain about an algorithm change or that they have to pay for advertising or things like that, it's like, yeah, Facebook doesn't care about you. They're not here to make your business life easier. They're here to make sure that people stay on the platform. That's what they're here for.
So they can make money.
Right. Exactly.
That's for their shareholders. That's what they're there for.
Yes.
Well, this is fascinating stuff. So tell us, before we get to the question of the week, I like to ask my guests, so you obviously have been doing this for 10 years. So before we get to my question, tell us how you got into this. You're a small business owner or a solopreneur, and congratulations on 10 years. That's amazing in itself. Really, congratulations on that. How did you start and how did you sustain what you're doing?
All right. So my mom's going to love this. And
okay, Mom, are you listening?
Yes, she's going to love this. I will memorialize her. So when I got out of school the second time, because when I got out the first time, the economy wasn't good. So I ran back to school because I was like, hey, more schooling. That's always great. And I came out the second time and the economy still wasn't good. So I was doing side jobs like teaching assistant and things like that. And my mom said, hey, well, Tamay, you're helping people with marketing. Why don't you start a business? And I was like, horrible idea. I am not doing that. Because I really had it that I had to have an MBA. I needed to do a corporate job for 20 years before I could be in my own business owner. I had all these things that I had to have before I could be in business.
Right.
So I sat on it for 6 months. It was the seed was planted, sat on it for 6 months, and then I took the leap. I was like, okay, well, you know what, screw it. Fine. I will give it a go, see what happens. Because it's just me and a dog. I can eat ramen. It's fine. I'll figure it out. So that's how I got started. And like, I think a lot of business owners, I was like, I will do all of marketing. Everything that's marketing, I'm going to do it. And my mentor was like, hey, that's not really feasible. Like, why don't you focus it down? Why don't you narrow it down? I was like, no, that's horrible. You're noticing a theme. I say no a lot first before I come around to it. But then I was like, okay, I will focus down. So I chose social media because it is, for me, a perfect blend of science and art. Like, there's the data of it. Like, I have to look at Google Analytics and Facebook Insights to look at what's working and what's not. But then there's the creative part where it's like, ooh, let's have fun with a meme, or, oh, let's go create really interesting things and see how that works out. And so I pick social media because it has those two things coming together, and it's always changing. There is never a day where it's like, I saw that coming. No, that doesn't happen. So, yeah.
And so you decided on social media. And how'd you go about getting your first clients, and how have you built it from there?
Oh, Mom.
Oh, okay.
My mom is incredibly supportive. My family is incredibly supportive. And so
That's
she was
awesome.
out there being like, hey, my daughter's, she can help you with that. She can help you. And so that was my first client because my mom was being very supportive. So yeah.
And you just built it from there.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay. So in your experience, you've been doing this for 10 years. I like to ask this question. Give us the funniest, weirdest, craziest story that you've had with a client. Like something that
gosh.
like, have you had one of those nightmare clients, or have you had someone give you like request, I need to do this, and you're like, what kind of thing?
No,
you can't have normal clients for 10 years.
I mostly have like the craziest thing is not even that crazy. It was just somebody who wanted me to use other people's posts. So other people's content, they just wanted me to copy all of it. And I was like, there's no way that's going to work for anybody. Like I can't just, but it's good. It looks, yes, I agree. It looks wonderful. Can't just copy all their stuff. Can't just copy it. But yeah, that's the I think that would be the weirdest. I think that's the weirdest.
Wow. Well, good for you. You've been very fortunate. I've told this story before, but I one of my very first clients when I went off on myself, I was a StoryBrand certified guide. And so I was doing a lot of copywriting and website design and stuff. And this guy contacted me and he wanted me to redo his website. And instead of farming it out like I should have, I can design a website. I can do that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do it, but I can do it. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do everything myself. It's my first client. I'm all excited. Oh my God. I learned very quickly what should be in a web design contract. I'm not kidding. 7 to 10 times a day, I'd get a text from him with the commas in the wrong place. I don't like this shade of blue. And then like at 10 o'clock at night, if it's not fixed by 7 a.m., I'd get shouty cap texts like he's yelling at me. It was an absolute nightmare. So I learned very, very quickly to say no to clients that they're not going to align with you. Yeah. So that's why I asked that question because. All right. It is time for the Ask Alan segment, the question of the week. And this is a cool one because I put a little twist in it here for Tamay because it's about sales, but it's also relating to social media. So the question comes from a gentleman named Stephen Bachik, I think is how you pronounce his name. He did not say where he's from, but he says, good afternoon, Alan. I really enjoy your podcast. As a sole proprietor, so those are the people we're talking to, who handles everything about my company, another thing we chatted about, I find your podcast inspirational and helpful. How about that? I'm inspirational. Okay. May I see that? Thank you for having your podcast. As for my question, as a sales expert, do you delineate between the sales approach of a product versus the sales approach of a service? If so, how? And can you describe the difference? So I turn that over to Tamay and say, I know how to do it from a sales standpoint. How do you do it from a social media standpoint? Because obviously there's people who have services and there's people who have products. Is there a difference in social media when you're trying to sell it?
There is, and it's dependent. It's like a simple, complex answer. So there is, and it depends on what the thing or service is. So things that are easily graspable that are like, obviously like hair ties and a tax accountant and things like people like, I want someone to do my taxes. Got it. You can, when you're talking about those services, or products, you can definitely talk more about the features of something like this is a 5x9 couch and it's cushy and you sit on it, blah, blah, blah. It's, dog hair repellent, et cetera, all that stuff. But when you are talking about services or products that either A, the market has never seen, or B, are aspirational, transformational, then you have to really not pull the heartstrings, but you have to really start talking to people about and know what's important to them. So, for example, Clubhouse. Before Clubhouse was Clubhouse, is somebody said, hey, I'm going to make an app where you talk to people. So like a phone, you're going to make an app for a phone? I'm confused. Like, so how they had to talk about it and language it had to create a distinction for people such that they could say, oh, this is different than a phone call, or this is different than like the old school party line. This is like something totally different. So I think that's where the difference comes in. Is a product readily understandable, or do you have to do some education for people really to get the fullness of what it offers?
Got it. And I will answer, since we are reading his question from the sales standpoint. For me, there's not a lot of delineation, because here's what you should do, Stephen. Whether it's a product or a service, the most important thing to do is not sell the product or service right out of the gate. You want to sell what it feels like to own the product or service first. So if it's a product, and I'll give you a great example. I used to sell sunrooms when I was in my 20s, and I never walked in and I never talked about the aluminum doors or the insulated roofs or the rollers on the sliders. I would say, imagine, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, what it would feel like looking out the back of your sunroom, drinking a cup of coffee on a nice sunny morning. I would put them in the feeling of what it would be like to own the sunroom. And then I would like, oh, if you want that feeling, look at this. I have a sunroom to do that. It's the same thing with a service. Imagine not having the stress of doing your taxes. I'm the tax accountant that can do that for you. So whatever you're selling, if you lead with the problem you solve, you lead with putting the customer in the position of owning it, whether it's a product or service, you'll be in a much better position to sell it, and you'll be different than everyone else that they've been talking to. So that would be my answer to Stephen's question. How's that from a social media standpoint? Good?
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah.
Well, Tamay, we're already out 40 minutes. It's like amazing how quickly this time goes by.
So quick.
So quick. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to hire you or just say hello on LinkedIn or whatever? How do they get to Tamay Shannon?
Yeah. So you can always just email me, Tamay, Tamay, at W2Smarketing.com if you're one of those email people. And if you're like, oh, no, I like to pick up the phone, I have a phone. So you can also give me a call. It is 678-837-6126. And I am also on LinkedIn. But really, I always love to chat, especially about social. So if you're just trying to noodle about and see if it's the right next step for you, just reach out, because I don't think it's the right next step for everybody. And we can figure that out together.
And is there a platform you hang out mostly? Is it LinkedIn, Instagram? Where's your main groove?
My main would be back and forth between LinkedIn and Instagram.
Gotcha. Okay. So you can find her in both. And again, it's W2S Marketing, the letter W, the number 2, the letter S, Marketing. And it's Tamay Shannon, Shannon. Tamay, thank you very much for joining me tonight. This has been awesome. Any last parting words of wisdom from Tamay to the audience tonight?
Messy perfection, y'all. Just get in there and start producing consistent content, and you're going to start reaping the rewards.
Progress over perfection. You're speaking my language. Tamay, cheers to you again. Thanks for joining me. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us on Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, episode 58 with Tamay Shannon. We will have another episode as we're nearing toward the milestone of 60. But check out Shannon when this, obviously listen to this and send me your question at www.marketingandsalespodcast.com. And just like Stephen, you'll get a free signed copy of my book if we use your question. That's it, everyone. We'll see you again next time.